The wise man does not reveal all his light. He leaves shadows to protect his strength.
Every empire begins with a limit, a silent point where the soul whispers, "No further." Today no philosopher will speak, no wounded man. Tonight speaks the mind that learned how respect is imposed, without ever needing to shout, from the ruins of power, from corridors where smiles were daggers. Machiavelli speaks.
Contempt never arrives with thunder. It seeps in like a crack in marble. A smile held a little too long, a joke that cuts beneath laughter, a word that pretends to be light but tests the weight of your dignity. That's how the demolition of respect begins. Not with betrayal, but with the first gesture you choose not to confront. Men believe ignoring is wisdom. But sometimes, silence is not control. It is permission. I learned that in the halls of Florence, where power was measured not in volume, but in nuance. A noble could destroy you with a single phrase spoken over wine, and that phrase would spread through the city like fire upon parchment. In those corridors, I learned this. The first sign of weakness is not losing. It is allowing. I saw refined men ruin themselves with modesty. A secretary once served the council with diligence. During a public session, a noble interrupted him with a sneer. The secretary laughed, trying to appear calm. He thought restraint made him virtuous. But in the eyes of others, that laugh was a confession of fear. Weeks later, they treated him as if he no longer existed. When he came to me for counsel, I told him only this. Dignity that is not defended becomes a habit for others. Respect doesn't vanish in a single blow, it rusts. A single offense left unanswered teaches your enemy what he is allowed to do. What you tolerate out of prudence today becomes his strategy tomorrow. In court, misplaced mercy was a form of suicide. I saw rulers allow insolence just to appear magnanimous, and each act of patience opened the door to a deeper wound. Because power, when softened, ceases to be power. Let me tell you something no moralist dares to admit. Respect is not born from love, but from measured fear. A man fears what he cannot humiliate, and when he senses he can do so without consequence, he erases you from his scale. I remember a dinner at the house of the Medici. One advisor, drunk on vanity, dared to correct his patron in public. A heavy silence fell. Old Lorenzo did not raise his voice. He simply looked at him and smiled. 2 days later, the advisor was exiled. No one knew if it was for that night or another reason, but everyone understood the lesson. Respect is not discussed, it is executed. When a man fears to offend you, he obeys before you even speak. But when he learns he can mock you without consequence, neither your words nor your legacy will save you. So listen carefully. Every offense you let pass is a lesson you give about your price. And he who teaches that his price is low becomes the entertainment of the strong. Do not mistake humility for submission. Humility without power is often an excuse for cowardice. Respect is defended by the edge of gesture, by the precision of limits. The right word, the right silence, the necessary punishment. Remember this. The first offense is an invitation, and the one who lets it pass becomes the host of contempt. Declare it as a personal oath. The first offense is never forgiven. Block 2. The hidden language of power. Power rarely announces itself. It doesn't need to. Its voice is softer than all others, yet when it speaks, everyone falls silent. I learned this in the corridors of the Vatican, where cardinals conspired beneath the perfume of incense. There, victory belonged not to those who shouted, but to those who knew when to remain silent. The truly powerful man never raises his voice. He makes the world lower its own to hear him. Fools believe domination comes from speaking louder. But those who truly rule know that respect is born from measured silence, from controlled gestures, from the mystery that refuses to explain itself. I remember a French cardinal, a man of endless words. In every council he filled the air with his brilliance, quotations, promises, names. The more he spoke, the more he revealed. Every word betrayed his fear, every argument, his desperation to convince. At the end of one session, the Pope, old, nearly blind, turned slightly toward another advisor, a man who had not uttered a single word. The Pope murmured, "He understands." That whisper sealed a destiny. The talker was forgotten. The silent man was sent to negotiate in the name of the throne. True power doesn't compete for attention. It attracts it, like gravity draws a stone. Stillness gives weight. Mystery turns your voice into a latent threat. I experienced it myself in Florence. During an embassy with France, a diplomat mocked my fall from politics. He waited for me to react, to defend my name. I did not. I simply watched him. I let his voice fill the air until silence itself became unbearable. Then he understood his mistake. The one who never stops speaking confesses without knowing it. The one who listens rules. Every word has a cost, and the powerful pay only for those that matter. So when you wish to impose respect, speak less than they expect. Let your gaze answer what your tongue will not. Uncomfortable silence is the purest form of control. The body, too, speaks. An upright back, a steady gaze, calm in the face of provocation. These are signs weak minds recognize as superiority. They do not need explanation. They feel it in their instincts. I once saw a veteran general enter a hall filled with arrogant young men. No one introduced him. No one announced his arrival. Yet as soon as he crossed the threshold, the conversation died. His steps were slow, his face unshaken. He said nothing. And still, everyone stood. Not by rule, by instinct. They felt something older than authority, the presence of a man who does not seek approval. Respect is magnetic. You do not gain it by asking for it, you gain it by embodying it. And to embody it, you must abandon the need to convince. Remember this: every time you feel the urge to explain yourself, the power within you begins to fade. Respect does not live in arguments. It lives in the silent certainty of your posture. Noise belongs to the insecure. Silence, to those who have already conquered. While common men argue to be right, the wise simply observe and decide when to intervene. So I tell you, do not speak louder. Make others lower their voices. Do not seek to be heard. Make them need to hear you. Etch this into your habits. My silence commands. Block 3, the discipline of the limit. Respect is not born from love. It is born from limits. Love asks, respect defines. Men may admire you, even wish you well, but if they do not know your boundaries, they will consume you without guilt. I learned this in Florence, in the cruelest days of the Republic. Alliances crumbled like damp walls. Every faction demanded something. Every noble tried to bend my will. The weak would have yielded a little to each. I did not. I knew that a single act of compliance was the beginning of my undoing. In power, to yield once is to teach others how to rule you. Men observe your concessions with the precision of accountants. They note when you say yes, when you hesitate, when your voice trembles. And from that moment, they no longer see a man. They see an opening. I remember Francesco Vittori, one of Florence's most skilled diplomats. He had a rare virtue. He could stay calm while surrounded by wolves. But one night, in Rome, during a dinner with cardinals, he gave in to pressure. Signing an agreement he knew was unjust. "Just this once," he said. What he failed to see was that once becomes a precedent. The next day they treated him like a servant. He had lost more than a negotiation. He had lost his form. Men who do not know where they end dissolve into the will of others, and no one respects what blends in. I learned to say no as an act of war, to deny without explanation, to let my silence teach what my words would not. The discipline of limits is not imposed on others. It begins with yourself. If you do not obey your own rules, no one else will. The respect you inspire is the shadow of your self-control. You cannot demand order outside if you cannot command your chaos within. So each time temptation invites you to yield, remember this. You are not rejecting the other. You are protecting your invisible hierarchy. The weak always break from misunderstood compassion. They wish to be loved, not respected. But love that requires surrender kills authority. Once they see you step back, they will never fear stepping on you again. Boundaries do not need to be explained. They must be felt. They are in the calm with which you withdraw attention, in the firmness with which you refuse to correct minor insults, because those who commit them are unworthy of instruction. They live in the silence with which you leave the room when a voice rises too high. I have seen princes lose thrones for one gesture of weakness, and beggars gain obedience through sheer consistency. The difference was not in power, but in clarity. The clarity of a line drawn and defended. Remember this, your limit is your banner. Men without boundaries end up serving everyone but themselves. See it this way. Each time you give what you should not, you are teaching the world how to destroy you. Each time you hold your ground, even when it hurts, respect builds, stone upon stone. Character is not measured by how much you endure, but by how much you refuse to allow. Consecrate this as inner law. Respect is measured by the limits I do not cross. Block 4. The Anatomy of Punishment. The Error of the Monk, Savonarola. Power is not sustained by force, but by the precision of punishment. I have seen men lose the respect of the people not for their cruelty, but for their poorly measured mercy. I remember what happened in Florence, when the plague still haunted the cloisters and the temples were filled with prayers and conspiracies. A monk, Girolamo Savonarola, had seized the heart of the city with his sermons. His tongue was fire. His words shook the pillars of civil power. Many whispered that God himself spoke through him. And I knew what that meant. When a man convinces the people that divinity protects him, he ceases to obey mortal laws. The government decided to judge him, and on the day of his trial in the great square, Savonarola did not beg. He smiled. His calm humiliated the judges. The crowd roared his name. It was clear that a light punishment would only feed his legend. But the Gonfaloniere, a man of weak morals, believed that compassion would make him appear just. He ordered exile instead of execution. He thought forgiveness would calm the people. But mercy without precision is a crack in the wall. Less than a year later, Savonarola returned, not as a penitent, but as a martyr. His voice thundered from the balconies again, louder, fiercer. And in the name of virtue, he set Florence on fire. Temples became assemblies. Plazas turned into tribunals. And the judges themselves became prisoners of the people's holy fever. When they finally captured him, the city had already lost its soul. And when they hanged and burned him in the Piazza della Signoria, the people did not see justice. They saw sacrilege. By delaying correction, Florence made tragedy inevitable. Premature forgiveness redeems nothing. It merely postpones the flames. That night, I learned what no book teaches. A delayed punishment ceases to be justice. It becomes revenge. Respect is preserved not through brutality, but through the speed of decision. I saw it again and again. Princes who punished too late lost the respect of the bold. Those who punished in anger lost the respect of the wise. The balance lies in coldness, in knowing that you do not punish to destroy, but to restore order. The weak confuse mercy with prudence. The strong understand that mercy without limit is indulgence with betrayal, and nothing corrodes authority faster than the failure to end an offense. The perfect punishment does not seek applause. It seeks silence. It must be so clear, so just, so inevitable that it leaves no room for debate. Even the guilty must feel it could not have been otherwise. So when someone crosses your boundary, do not raise your voice. Do not prove your worth. Let your actions speak. Do it once, without hesitation, without emotion, and then walk away. Let the echo of your decision teach more than any speech. I have seen cruel monarchs die hated, but obeyed, and merciful rulers die loved, but betrayed. Between those two fates, the wise choose to be obeyed. Do not fear being feared. Fear, when measured, is not the enemy of respect. It is its guardian. Recite this law in silence, and let only your ambition hear it. Punishment delayed does not correct. It educates the traitor. Block 5, the theater of respect. I have seen men kneel before empty idols and murder living kings, and I learned, they do not obey power itself, they obey its appearance. In Florence, while serving the Republic, I witnessed Duke Valentino, Cesare Borgia, enter the city after a campaign of blood. He did not speak much. He did not smile. He walked surrounded by men who kept silent, as if words themselves might offend him. It was not his sword that ruled the air. It was the scene he had built. Fear was his decoration. Merchants who once cursed his name now lowered their heads as he passed. Power, I realized, need not be real to be obeyed. It only needs to be perceived. That is why wise men wear their virtues like armor, and their flaws like shadows. I remembered Savonarola, the monk from before. His torn robes, his burning eyes, the perfect costume of a false prophet. And the people, blinded by his act, saw in him the voice of God. Nothing is more powerful than an illusion that feels true. When you serve a prince, you learn that every political act is theater. Councils, alliances, decrees, all performed on a stage of glances and silences. He who masters the stagecraft masters reality itself. Men judge more by sight than by reason. The eye is fast, the mind is slow. That is why skilled deceivers reign over honest sages. I once saw a French ambassador who could not speak a single word of Latin. Yet he entered the council chamber with such grave composure that no one dared mock his ignorance. When the meeting ended, everyone believed he was brilliant, simply because he seemed to be. That day I learned, respect is the illusion of weight. If you appear light, they will move you. If you enter with gravity, they will move around you. Your presence is a work of visual engineering. Gesture, tone, distance, pause. The man who speaks little seems to know more. The man who waits seems to command. The man whose expression reveals nothing seems to judge all. Modern men call it authenticity to show everything they feel. But I know, to show everything is suicide. The ancients understood. Each extra word is a crack in the armor of respect. That is why I speak little of what I know, and never of what I feel. The world respects those who guard their mystery. Remember this: those who look at you do not seek to understand you. They seek to classify you. Give them a mask they cannot read, and they will lose their categories. A man who cannot be defined cannot be dominated. Power is not always true, but respect is always theatrical. And every theater needs ritual, an entrance, a silence, a departure. If you know how to enter with presence, remain with weight, and leave without explanation, no one will forget your name. Make your life an impenetrable performance. Let men never see your truth, only the echo you have designed. Power is not what you are. It is what you make others believe you are. Block 6. The anatomy of silence. During my years in Rome, I served among cardinals who believed they ruled the world with speeches. Each one sought to sound eloquent, to convince, to impress. But in every council, while their words filled the air, there was one who never spoke. His name was Raffaele Riario, an old fox of the Vatican. Silent, still, eyes like carved stone. He never rushed to answer. He only observed. And when others grew impatient, they spoke too much, and every word betrayed them. I watched as his silence tore them apart. Because silence, when kept with purpose, is not emptiness. It is pressure. And the man who cannot endure that pressure confesses. That is how I understood. He who masters silence interrogates without opening his mouth. Respect is born of mystery, and mystery feeds on verbal restraint. The people fear what they do not understand. Courtiers fear what does not reply. Enemies fear what does not explain. Silence is a sheathed sword. It wounds no one but threatens everyone. Noise reveals your edges. Silence makes them infinite. When I was accused in Florence of conspiracy, I was interrogated for hours. The guards enjoyed the power of their words, waiting for my defense, my excuses, my pleas. I answered only once. Ask my work, not my tongue. Then I fell silent. The interrogation ended before dawn. My silence did more than my innocence ever could. Again and again I have seen this pattern. The weak use words to justify. The strong use them to decree. And the wise only when the outcome is already decided. Silence is not withdrawal. It is mastery of rhythm. To speak when others do not expect it. To withhold when others crave a reply. Every pause is a trap. Every steady gaze, a declaration. Respect is built in those moments that others cannot endure. Silence creates a void, and men rush to fill it with their assumptions. Some will call you wise, others will call you cruel, others still, a saint. Let them. Silence multiplies versions of you, and in all of them, you remain the center. The weak seek to be understood. The powerful seek to be remembered. And the remembered rarely explain themselves. Etch this into your skin. If you must speak, let it be a sentence. If you must fall silent, let it be a strategy. And if you must break the silence, let your words strike like a blade. He who masters silence masters attention. And he who masters attention no longer needs to speak to rule. Make your silence a fortress, and your words sharpen blades. Silence does not protect you. It crowns you. Block 7. The value of distance. Power does not grow by being seen, but by being awaited. I have seen brilliant men lose all respect, not through error, but through excess of presence. Respect, like fire, dies when you breathe too close. I learned this watching the princes of Italy. Some believed that being everywhere meant control. They walked among merchants, listened to the people, mingled with soldiers and courtiers. They wanted to seem accessible, and they succeeded. So much that the people began to treat them as equals. When distance dies, reverence follows. But the wise, those who endured, understood another law. Presence without scarcity becomes habit, and what is habitual no longer inspires fear. I remember one man in particular, Federico da Montefeltro, Duke of Urbino. He ruled with calm austerity. He was rarely seen. When he appeared, the entire duchy paused. His mere presence in the square was an event, a message without words. The people respected him, not because they saw him, but because they imagined him. And in the imagination of men, mystery always exceeds truth. In Florence, I saw the opposite. A magistrate sought to be loved. He visited workshops, played with children, ate with artisans. For a while, they adored him. Then they mocked him. The love of the people is a flame that warms at first and then consumes. I felt it myself in exile. When they stripped me of office, my name vanished from the tongues of the powerful. But in the silence of those years, my shadow grew larger than my body. I learned. Absence, when used with intent, is not forgetfulness. It is multiplication. The absent man with dignity becomes a myth. The ever-present man becomes noise. Distance is a design. Each time you withdraw, do it with elegance, leaving behind a question, a space that others will rush to fill with your memory. Men fear emptiness. They fill it with their imagination. And in each imagined version of you, you continue to reign. The wise prince is not always on the throne. He allows himself to be imagined in the corridors, on the maps, in the whispers. Modern leaders should learn this. Do not seek approval. Seek anticipation. Let your silence seem like preparation. Let your distance smell of calculation. Respect is born from contrast. If you are always present, your image dissolves into routine. If you vanish and return, every gesture becomes a prophecy. Thus acted Cesare Borgia. He would disappear for weeks. And when he returned, his mere shadow changed the pulse of his men. No one knew whether he brought reward or punishment, only that something would happen. And that was enough. Understand this: your power lies not in how often you are seen, but in how often you are awaited. The man who knows when to withdraw turns silence into a throne. Do not fear distance. Fear saturation. Do not fear being forgotten. Fear being familiar. Respect does not die in hatred. It dies in habit. Engrave this law in cold fire. He who shows himself without pause teaches others not to look. Block 8. The architecture of fear. I have seen men love with passion and betray without remorse. I have seen soldiers swear loyalty beneath the banner, then sell their swords before dawn. But never have I seen a man openly defy the one he truly fears. Fear is the invisible architect of order, unseen, but holding every wall in place. And when a ruler forgets this, the foundations begin to tremble. I remember King Ferrante of Naples, whom I once observed in my youth. He was hated, yes, feared, even more. And yet, his kingdom endured while others burned. Ferrante understood that fear, when measured with precision, does not breed rebellion. It breeds stability. Every traitor who vanished quietly was a lesson sharper than any decree. The courtiers learned. Punishment was never announced. And that uncertainty became obedience. His son Federico, who ruled after him, believed he could replace fear with love. He forgave. He trusted. He smiled. And within a year, he lost everything his father had held for a lifetime. The people's love did not stop betrayal. His softness made it easier. That is how I learned. Fear is not cruelty. It is a silent reminder of consequence. Men respect what can wound them, not what caresses them. Even in Rome I saw it. Pope Julius II, impulsive, violent, relentless. The cardinals detested him, yet none dared oppose him. Why? Because behind his fury was action. Every word he spoke became reality. That is the essence of fear, not the scream but the certainty. A ruler may be loved and weak or feared and stable. The wise choose stability. It is not about terrorizing. It is about ensuring that every man knows his offense has a price. That consequences always arrive. That power watches, even in silence. Respect does not grow from unconditional love, but from conditional calculation. Men love you while it benefits them. They fear you even when you are not there. I do not speak of tyranny. I speak of moral geometry, of balance. Fear keeps the lines straight. Love, without its counterweight, bends them toward indulgence. In Florence I saw it too, men laughing at their superiors. At first, they called it familiarity. Later, insolence. And when the superior tried to restore his authority, it was already too late. Respect, once broken, cannot be stitched back with apologies. Only with demonstrations of power. Do not fear if men hate you a little. Hatred without power is harmless. Fear, however, keeps even love in line. Beware instead of being loved without measure. For love blinds the loved, and the blind never see betrayal coming. The architecture of fear rests on 3 pillars: distance, consequence, and mystery. Too much closeness, respect dissolves. Too much indulgence, punishment loses its edge. Too much transparency, mystery dies. Perfect respect is not affection. It is emotional precision. Let men admire you, yes, but let them also fear disappointing you. That delicate balance, that narrow line between love and fear, is the true art of power. Engrave this as an immutable law. Do not fear being feared, fear being forgotten. Block 9, the oath of implacable power. I have lived long enough to watch every form of respect die. I have seen the feared grow weak, the loved betrayed, the righteous devoured by their own compassion. And I learned what few will ever admit. No virtue survives without the shadow of power. Love without strength is begging. Morality without strategy is self-destruction. And kindness without limits, suicide. You have heard my words. You have walked with me through every chamber of respect. You have descended with me into the labyrinth where invisible hierarchies are forged. Now you understand what I learned too late. Power is never requested. It is constructed with the pulse of sacrifice. Every silence you endure, every betrayal you turn into wisdom, every distance you choose, every fear you inspire without speaking, is another stone in the fortress that makes you untouchable. I remember the day I was interrogated, stripped of rank, cast into exile. As the soldiers bound my hands, I realized they had taken everything, except my understanding of men. And that was enough. Because the one who understands human nature needs no army. He can rule with a glance. The world fears the man who does not fear loss. Respect is born when others sense that nothing, not plea, nor promise, nor affection, can bend you. Fools beg for recognition. The wise sow fear and let respect bloom on its own. The weak demand justice. The powerful design consequences. Remember this. Respect gained by force dies with force. Respect gained by calculation endures even in your absence. I never sought to be feared for pleasure. I sought it out of necessity. For I understood, the world's order does not spring from goodness, but from the balance between fear and hope. That is why my voice preaches neither mercy nor brutality. It preaches clarity. Let your limits be visible. Let your responses be cold. Let your words be few. And let your presence, like mine now, never be forgotten. He who masters respect does not raise his voice. His shadow is enough. He who understands power does not seek love. He replaces it with voluntary obedience. And so, as I once did, I invite you to seal what you have learned. Not with promises, but with will. Do not say you will change. Do not say you will become strong. Do it. From this night forward, weigh your words, command your gestures. And when strength abandons you, remember this. Each time you refuse to lower yourself, each time you enforce your limits without anger, each time your silence weighs more than noise, you honor my name without speaking it. This is the oath of implacable power. I will not seek approval. I will not beg for respect. I will design it. I will demand it. I will sustain it. And now, seal your alliance not with empty words, but with a mark of decision. Write this phrase as your signature. My power asks no permission. Because those who understand this, even when the world exiles them, still rule, even in silence.